Okay, so now we wanted to talk about 5.2 right triangle trigonometry. Okay, as similar, so for the objectives, and you can get it from the course slides on Canvas. Okay, and today we want to talk about the 6 trigonometric functions. Okay, so it's what sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Okay, typically we write tangent and cotangent, together, but it's fine. Okay, so at sine, how could we define these trigonometric functions? It's always defined in what? The right triangle. Okay, so if it's not a right triangle, the sine may not be defined as this. Okay, so sine theta is what? The length of side this one is too long, so what will you remember? It's opposite over hypotenuse. And so the cosine theta is what? Adjacent over hypotenuse. So I will write here op over hypotenuse and adjacent over hypotenuse here. And what will be tangent? Tangent is what? Opposite over adjacent. Yeah, so if we look at the angle here, theta, opposite over adjacent. Okay, so and for cosecant, secant, and cotangent, so it's very similar. So what will be the cosecant? Is what? Hypotenuse over opposite. And this one will be what? Secant is what? Hypotenuse over adjacent. And this will be adjacent over opposite for cotangent. So when you look at these 6 definitions, what did you notice? This is opposite over hypotenuse. This is hypotenuse over opposite. So they are what? Reciprocal of each other. Very good. So what happened? If it's reciprocal, it's what? 1 over cosecant theta. So here is what? 1 over sine theta, yeah? So they are reciprocal of each other. And then cosine theta equal to 1 over secant theta. And here is what? Secant theta is what? Similar 1 over cosine theta. And tangent is 1 over cotangent theta. And cotangent is 1 over tangent theta. Yeah, so this is from the definition we immediately notice. So these are the common thing. So these things are also called what? The identities. Okay, later on we will do it. Okay, so we wanted to find all these values. So a equal to 3, b equal to 4. How could we find the hypotenuse? The famous what? Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so c squared equal to 25. And c, actually, if you have a c squared equal to 25, what will be c? From algebra, we know plus or minus square root of 25 equal to plus or minus 5. Why this question only keep the positive here? Because what? C is length. So C is always what? Positive. So this is why you only choose the C equal to 5. Okay, so then use the definition. So opposite over hypotenuse is sine. Cosine is what? Adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is what this, and all these things. Okay, you can practice. Pretty straightforward. Okay, that's need to remember. So there are 2 kinds of right triangles that are very important. So one is what? 45 degrees. The other one is what? 60 and 30 degrees. Okay, so what do we need to do? What will be sine of 45 degrees? 1 over opposite over hypotenuse, 1 over square root of 2. You can rationalize it, yeah? So square root of 2 times square root of 2 on both sides. is what? Square root of 2 over 2. What will be cosine 45 degrees? It's again, addition is also 1. 1 over square root of 2 is square root of 2 over 2. Yeah. So what will be tangent 45 degrees? This is my favorite, 1 over 1, which will be 1. Do you need to find all the others? Yeah, so And what will be cosecant 45? If you remember, the identity is 1 over sine of 45 is what? Square root of 2. It's a reciprocal. Secant 45 is 1 over cosine 45. So it's also what? Square root of 2. So what will be cotangent 45? It's also 1. Okay. So what do we have here? Sine of 30 degrees. So what will be sine of 30 degrees? Opposite is 1. So it's 1 over 2. What is cosine 30 degrees? Square root of 3 over 2. So what will be tangent 30 degrees? 1 over square root of 3, which will be what? Square root of 3 over 3. What will be cotangent 30 degrees? Square root of 3. What will be secant 30 degrees? That will be what? 2 over square root of 3 is 2 square root of 3 over 3. What will be cosecant 33? That will be 2 over 1, 2. Okay, so the tricky thing, so these things you wanted to remember, for sure. But what are the things that you need to remember? These 3. For these 3, you can always use what? Reciprocal to find it. Yeah. Okay, so the tricky thing, I wanted you to see the magic here. So what will be sine of 60? 60, this is what? Square root of 3 over 2. Yeah. So what will be sine of, or cosine of 60? It's 1/2. What will be tangent of 60? Square root of 2. Cotangent 60, square root of 3 over 3. Secant 60, 2. Cosecant 60, 2 square root of 3 over 2. It's just 2 square root of 3 over 3. So what did you notice? What did you notice? These 2 are this, yeah. So because 30 and 60 are in one triangle, so the opposite side for the 30 is actually the adjacent side for what? 60. So it's the sine, cosine. You could change the values. Okay, so if you remember this, how many do you actually need to remember? So sine 45 cosine tangent, you need to remember. Sine 30 cosine 30 tangent 30 is okay. All the others, you can either use the reciprocal or use the technique that you find all the other values. Okay, so do not always think, these are so many formulas, but if you find the technique, not so many. These are the things that you need to be careful. And how you need to remember, I would remember the triangle. 1 square root of 3, 2. 1 corresponding to what? 30, 60 is opposite to square root of 3. 1 square root of 2. Okay, remember these 2 triangles will be super helpful. Okay, so then these things we have already done, and this we have already done too, tangent, and they also summarize these things, but we also we even make all these more. Yeah, okay, we all make all these things more. Did you see? Okay. This is what are the reciprocal identities. We have already found it. And this quotient identity we didn't find. Yeah. So tangent equal to what? Sine over cosine, because sine is opposite over hypotenuse. And cosine is what? Adjacent over hypotenuse. So hypotenuse, you both have hypotenuse is what? Opposite over adjacent, which will be sine or cosine. Cotangent, it will be reciprocal of tangent, so that will be cosine or sine. That's pretty easy. Okay, good. So once if you given sine theta, if you are given cosine, you can find tangent. You can also find what? Cosecant or all the others. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward with the formula. Yeah. Okay, so continue. You can even find out more. Okay. So the Pythagorean identity. So this is sine square plus cosine square equal to 1. That's a very important identity. Yeah. But where the other two come from? So we know sine square plus what? Cosine square equal to what? 1. So if we divide sine square everywhere, okay? No, I lied. It's not wrong, okay? So it's just, wanted to, if you divide cosine square first everywhere, what do we have? Yeah, so if you can divide, because if cosine theta is not equal to 0 here, yeah, assume. Okay, so sine over cosine is tangent. Cosine over cosine is 1. What will be 1 over cosine? That's the identity secant, yeah? So this is this formula. So there are 3 identities, but where does this identity come from? It's actually divide cosine square. And similarly, if you sine square plus cosine square equal to 1, if you divide sine square everywhere, and you will have 1. Cosine over sine is what? Cotangent. And 1 over sine is what? Cosecant square. Okay, cosecant square. Okay, these Pythagorean identities are very important too. Later on we will use it. Okay, so if we are given sine theta, could we add theta is an acute angle. Okay, acute angle. Find the value of the cosine theta. So what means the acute angle? So it's what? It's what? Between 0 and what? 90 degrees. So if it's between 0 and 90 degrees, okay, so what will be cosine theta? It's always what? Positive. Okay, actually, in order to remember this, and I believe that in high school, some teachers will tell you, or, it's called what? So it's or starts trig class. It means or starts trig class. So what does this mean? So everything is positive here. So what is positive here? Sine is positive. If sine is positive, what is also positive? Cosecant is also positive. Why? Because sine equal to what? 1 over cosecant. And here, tangent is positive. Tangent is positive. What also is positive? Cotangent is positive. Here is what? Cosine is positive. And also similarly, secant is positive. This means all the trigonometric functions is positive. Here is what? Sine is positive. Here is what? Tangent is positive. Here is cosine. For cosine positive, similarly secant is positive. Okay, so because acute angle means in the first quadrant is, and so this means everything is positive. So sine square plus cosine square equal to 1/4. Cosine square equal to 3/4. And this is why you only keep the positive here. So you square to 3 over 2. Okay. Okay, trigonometric functions and complements. Okay, so what means complements? Means the sum of these two things are 90 degrees, and they are called what? Cofunctions. They are called cofunctions. This is what we also notice, yeah? So 30 and what? 60 degrees. Do you remember? If it's 30, 90 minus what? 30 degrees, that is what? 60 degrees. So 30 degrees and 60 degrees are complement angles, and sine and cosine will be what? The cofunctions. Yeah. So let's go back to what we have here. Yeah. Sine 30 equal to cosine 60, cosine 30 and equal to sine 60. Yeah. So these are the things that we noticed before, and later on we call this what? They are cofunctions. Yeah. So sine will be cosine, cosine will be sine. If they are complementary angles. What means complementary again? Add them together equal to what? 90 degrees. Okay, so the idea behind this means what? The opposite of one thing or one angle will be the adjacent of its complementary angle. So this is where it comes from. Okay, find a cofunction. So sine of 40 degrees, which will be cosine of what? 90 minus theta. Yeah, so theta, 90 minus theta. Yeah, so here pi over 2 is what? 90 degrees. Yeah, so you also need to notice pi over 2 is what? 90 degrees. This is when you have readings, you want to change everything to readings. Okay. Okay, you can use your calculator to evaluate sine, cosine, tangent, but make sure you set your mode to the degrees or the readings according to your question. This is very, very important. This is very, 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 very important. Okay, otherwise a lot of students will get the wrong answers because they didn't pay attention to the mode. Okay, so you can use, calculator, set it in the degree mode because here is a degree. If you do not have the circle here, that means what? It is readings. It's not long, okay? The question is not long. It's just what? Not a degree. It's in readings. Okay. Okay, application question. Angle of elevation and angle of depression here. Okay, so an angle formed by a horizontal line and the line of side to an object is above the horizon is called the angle of elevation. The angle formed by the horizontal line and the line of the side to object below is the angle of the depression. Okay, so this is the angle, So here is what? Elevation. The bottom line is what? Depression. Okay. So we can use these things, angle of elevation, to see. So here is top, yeah. Okay, so what do we have here? To find its distance, so we took the measurement shown in the figure. So what do we have here? We know from here to here is what? 750 yards. And we know here is what? 24 degrees. And we wanted to find the length of the lake. Okay, so you do not need to have a super long ruler or something to measure this. What will you do? You can use your pre-calculus information to find it. So you can know from here to here because it's on the land, it's easy to get it. Yeah. Then you can always measure the angle. So we have tangent 24 degrees equal to the opposite over the adjacent. So A over 750. And then A will be what? 750 times tangent 24. You can use your calculator. Do not forget to set your calculator into the degree mode to find this answer. Okay, so this is the application question. So that's the end of J.